Here we are in Blade and Sorcery, and currently we are right in front of this great big door that many people will recognize as the door to the teleporter that leads you to the end of the game. However, if you turn around from this door and run down these stairs, there is actually a little secret. See, there is this great long shaft, shall you say, and it actually serves as an elevator, as we see in other ruins. Now, this one is disabled, but I find it very cool that the devs put a sense of travel to get into this room, since all of the other passages are little cracks in the wall and unnatural break-ins to this temple. Now, this is just one of very many cool little spots and secrets in Blade and Sorcery. And today, we will be looking at least one little cool spot in every single map. Now, obviously, there are various different map sizes, so the bigger ones will have more things to look at, whereas the smaller ones, we might have to make a little exceptions for what we count as cool little places. But anyways, let's just get right on into it. So here we are at the very start of the game, and funnily enough, the first secret is actually just around the corner here. And it is also probably the most known little secret. This here is a management shaft, as many people have come to believe. Now, what is it actually doing here? We don't really know, and we can't even open it. However, it is very cool that there is an existence of a sort of management shaft here, which they would have to use for probably the teleporter inside of the main temple. So with that one out of the way, we can move on to the first map that we will be looking at. And here is the canyon. Might be one of my favorite maps of all time. And the cool spot here is only really mentionable because of how out of place it feels. So if you don't know, in the canyon there is the main keep area, and there's quite a few different ruins around it. There are these two very cool looking snake statues, as well as some pillars, and then all of these bridges. Now, this place is also probably meant for a quarry, since we can see that there's a big old crane and various different stone pieces around. However, that is not the cool out of place part. The place I'm talking about is actually up on this little hill. Yes, it is a house. Now, why is this weird? Well, we can see that obviously there is a big ol' keep section where most people would live if anyone was living here to begin with. But for some reason, there is one singular house, not many, just one house probably fit for a family of up to 10 at most, and then a single chicken coop. There's no way up to this house that we can see, and there's no purpose that this house can really serve. So what is it even doing here? And honestly, I got no clue. It might be the overseer's house, but then why wouldn't they be living in the keep? Or it just might be a random house for a random person and they decided to build it there. I really don't know. Which is the cool part. So, on to the next map, which is the Citadel. Now, this is probably the biggest map out of all of them, and, you know, it kind of lives up to that. It has this big old central keep area, a lighthouse over this extremely high cliff, and then actually if you go way over down here, there is a beach with a burnt town behind it. So there is quite a lot to look at here. Oh, and by the way, if you do enjoy this type of content, please consider to like and subscribe, as it boosts this video out to the algorithm. And then also a big shout out to the YouTuber Any Austin, because I got this video idea from him. So anyways, back to the actual little secret. Now, this secret actually hides in an achievement. Or if this achievement did not exist, I don't think I would ever figure out the story behind this place. If we look below the main keep, we can see that there are a whole bunch of little caverns that we really don't know what they are. But when you enter them, you can see that they are connected to probably the sewage system, so we could guess that they are drains and sewers. However, if we go over to the right side of this citadel, it actually has a little achievement when we walk through this door. And the achievement name is called Sky Cell, meaning that this little place is actually a prison. And we can actually confirm that when we look a little bit closer. See, there is this broken down door, but when you inspect it closer, it actually has a lock on it, as well as a little pile of hay, which would be the bedding for the prisoner. Now, another question might be, well, why is there a prison in the sky? Like, there's only one side to it. Well, I'm pretty sure you could see why this would be a good idea, because there only needs to be one door to this prison. There seems to be quite a large drop if you decide to try and escape through the back. So, anyways, with that said and done, let's go on to the next map, which gets a little bit smaller. So obviously with these smaller maps, we're going to be taking less time on each one, and the cool little details are going to get much smaller as well. As we can see with the next map, which is the town. So where technically the town looks pretty big, like it has quite a few passageways, it all is basically the same house over and over again with a few different little details on it. However, these details are not very out of place or extraordinary, so we don't really got much to go off of. However, I do think one of the cool places, and probably pretty well known places, is the well in the center of the town. Now, why this well is weird is because it's a well without any water. Now, why would you have a well without water? I really don't know, which makes it pretty cool. But it's simply just a well, so there isn't really any more explanations that can come with this. So, there you go. It's a well. Anyways, on to the next map, where things get even smaller. But the details get pretty bigger, I would say. Anyways, here is the arena. This is probably another one of the more major maps that people would know, since it reminds people a lot of gladiators and coliseums. However, the details do not come from the arena itself, however, the stands above the arena. So as we can see here, there is a very well protected box, which is for probably like nobles or the king, if he wishes to watch any fights. But there's something even cooler than just a box. See, over here are these bars. Now, as we can see, all of the stands are pretty open, except for this one side area. Now, why is that? Well, I have come to the conclusion that the barred seats are the more expensive VIP sections in between the common folk and the nobles. So everyone in between who has enough money to pay for some more protection from any random spears or arrows coming into the stands, they can do so. And they have these bars to protect them. But it gets even more interesting, because all of the barred area is the best seating that you can get, where you can see basically the entire arena. So I found that as a very cool little detail. And anyways, with that said and done, let us continue to the next map. So here we are at the sanctuary, and the rest of the maps at this point are going to be very, very small, so they will also be very, very short. Now, the sanctuary is a pretty cool place. It's sort of like a church, I think, but more like a temple to their king. I really don't know the lore. Cool thing is there's a little chandelier that for some reason the rope is a bit too long. I don't know what's up with it. But let's just get straight to the cool little part. So since this is more of a battle arena map, the cool part is actually not part of the arena. See, if we go up to the top of the ceiling, there are these little rafters up here, which makes absolutely no sense because the enemies cannot reach this point, and you can't really have a pretty good view of them with like a bow or something. So for some reason, the devs decided to just put up these few little boards up at the top of the ceiling for absolutely no reason. And then also, just a cool little thing, there is a little bird's nest near the top of the king statue, which is, you know, just a cool little Easter egg, and quite literally an Easter egg. So that's done with Sanctuary, and now we are on to the new maps that just got released. So the first one up is this Japanese style map, and straight away, one of the cool little things that this map introduces is this little starting symbol thing. I don't know the exact name for it. A lot of dojos seem to have it though in media, so that's always pretty cool. But the actual cool part in this map is right in the back of the courtyard, there is this floating tree. Now in lore, it would be floating because of the magic crystals, or the gravity crystals. So I find it very cool that this culture integrated the very powerful, sort of violent magic into something not violent at all. It's just a decoration. So I found that pretty cool. And now finally, we are on to the last map, and it's one of probably my favorite maps. It is a broken down pirate ship that has crashed into a lighthouse. Now this ship is so incredibly detailed, and it has little game mechanics that we haven't seen literally ever. Is that there's a bell and an actual world map. And then also just the entire ship is lined with a bunch of storage containers, and it looks like it's an actual functioning ship if it was in real life. However, the coolest detail that I think is in the ship. See, here's just a quick thing about how ships work. Basically, they have the sails, which propels the ship forward, and then you have the wheel, which moves a rudder that actually controls the ship. Now, how these older ships would work is the wheel itself is hooked up to a pulley rope system, which would, you know, either move the rudder left or right. Now, the cool thing about the Blade and Sorcery ship is that you can actually see that exact system played out. Whereas in many other pirate games, you cannot see that system. It's just an invisible wire going from the ship to the rudder. But in Blade and Sorcery, we can actually see this rope all across the top of the bottom part of the deck, which connects directly to the rudder. And simply just having that there, even though it doesn't work when you move the wheel, is just enough detail itself that it's just amazing that they have that in the game. So yeah, that is the final cool little detail. So thanks for sticking to the end, and make sure to subscribe because these little animations take way too long.